streaming. Hello, everyone. I hope we're live.
Hey.
Yay! Let me just check if we're really live or not, because this happens. Yes, we are live. So I'm here with Mike LaRosa, straight from the US.
Yeah.
He lives in Chicago, but you're really a digital nomad now. That's kind of the way you live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it for about a good year and a half,
Yeah.
and then about a year ago landed in Chicago.
Yeah.
But I'm on the road probably about 85-90% of the time.
So that's
It's
quite
close
a
enough,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah. That's I think you could already call yourself a digital nomad.
For sure.
Yeah, and I wanted to tell everyone a little bit about your story.
Sure.
So I wanted to ask you first how you got into the co-working scene, because that's really your area of expertise, huh?
Yep.
So yeah.
So it was total accident, right? So in 2012, I started my own consulting business, and a lot of it revolved around different events. My background is in events and marketing,
Yeah.
and so we'd go to different cities or working in different parts of Washington, D.C. or up and down the East Coast, and I was always kind of working out of a coffee shop or working out of a hotel.
Okay.
Or remote, right? Because I had
Yeah.
a couple of folks that were remote as well.
Yeah.
And one of the clients took me to Kansas City, and I had known about co-working. I had learned about spaces, but I really only thought it was for startups or for tech startups. And when I went to this one space, I was like, holy cow, like there's a lot of people that are like me as well.
Yeah.
That are working independently or
like
are
freelancers.
The term is contingent workers, right? Like they're independent contractors dependent on themselves for salary and everything. And that's when I realized, oh wow, the power of co-working. That was back in 2013.
Okay.
And ever since then, I've just been, I realized this is the future of work.
Yeah.
This is going to change. And just to see how the industry has progressed and evolved from 2013 to now is just really fascinating.
Yeah, and you say that when you saw, you immediately thought that's the future of work. Why for you co-working is the future of work?
Well, it's because, in this day and age, all you need is your iPhone to do work, right? In theory. And so coffee shops are great, but they're loud, noisy, distracting. It's hard to have a professional meeting there.
Yeah.
And that's not what they're designed for.
Yes.
And it's kind of a funny story. I used to work for Starbucks. So I was a store manager for Starbucks.
Yeah.
And I loved the brand and I loved the community because you have regulars that come in every morning and you would know what they drank and you got to know them. And, some have even invited me to like their house for Thanksgiving. You build that relationship.
Cool.
But then there'd be people that would be complaining about, well, there's not enough outlets or the music's too loud. I can't hear my conference call.
Okay.
And I was always torn to say, you want to provide good customer service and you want to leave a positive impact, but it was also like, well, this wasn't designed for business, right? Or this wasn't, And so that's when I realized, oh wow, like if you have what the term the industry uses now a lot is space as a service, right?
Yeah.
And so what is the type of space out there that are available to people that are working remotely or independently.
Yeah.
And so really learning about, oh, wow, space as a service is that future.
Yes.
Because there are spaces now that are focused on specific industries.
Okay.
Or maybe provide a specific type of service like childcare. Childcare is a really big one that people are trying to figure out. Okay, if you work remotely, it's tough to work from home if your kids are there as well. It's not fair to either of them. And so that's kind of what led me to realize, oh, wow, like...
This is a big thing. It's not only for tech or startup. It could be for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's also... Do you feel that there's a movement of more people working location dependent?
Yeah, so I think more and more folks are starting to understand that you can work remotely. Mm-hmm. You can do your own thing.
Yes.
We had a conversation earlier today about different industries specifically that are maybe more susceptible to that, whether it be law or architecture.
Yes.
Traditional firms where in theory the path used to be the partnership track, right? You'd come in as an associate, you'd learn under a higher partner,
Exactly.
but then over time you kind of carve out your own specialty.
Yeah.
And you
have your own clients, and they're attached to you, not the company that you work for.
Exactly. Yeah. And so if you can work and support those individuals, you can do so on your own terms, and then that allows you to travel.
Yeah.
I've got several friends that have, over the course of these 4 or 5 years, have also realized, oh, I can do my own thing. And it's been really exciting to see them exit from a full-time corporate salary, launch their own business, and then learn that, oh, I don't have to worry about my vacation time, because if I get my work done and my clients are happy, I can be anywhere.
Yes.
And I do have friends that if we do try to travel and do group trips, in the U.S. it's very difficult. Most people start with only 2 weeks vacation.
Yes, it's really not. And it builds up through the years, right? If you're in the same company.
It does, typically tied with tenure. But, there are some companies where you might have to be there for 2-3 years before you get some additional PTO, paid time off.
Okay.
And so it was just very fascinating my friends and I would try to schedule trips, and to have to listen to folks saying, oh, well, I'm in 3 weddings this year, so all of my PTO is going to be used. So
for weddings.
And then between that and the holidays, right? Like they were already kind of full.
Booked.
And it's sad to think that you've got that mentality where even at the beginning of the year, when your vacation all re-ups, it's already planned for.
Yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. And also, that's kind of what happened to you then as well, because you also worked in a corporate, and you went through this whole transition of working now for yourself.
Yep.
And you also have a website that's called Coworkaholic. Can you tell me and everyone here a little bit more about that?
Full disclosure, it's a little embarrassing. We're in the process of transitioning to a brand new platform to run the site. We're really excited to be partnered with PeopleVine. They're an amazing back-end operations platform.
Yeah, we're going to put the link below after, and also in the podcast. In the process,
if you go today, the site is down. Hopefully it will be up within the next 24 hours.
Okay.
Coworkaholic is just a blog. And so it's not a business. It's just kind of my hobby.
Yeah.
And I just started writing about co-working and shared workspace, and it just was someone introduced me at an event as like, oh, he's kind of a co-workaholic, and the name stuck, and I got the URL. So that's kind of the story on that.
Okay, but still, there's you have lots of followers, and you're very known in the co-working scene. And,
check it if you want to see some of the stuff that we do. We've got a great Facebook page with phenomenal videos.
Yeah.
A lot of the folks that follow us, they are space operators, or they are looking to open a space.
Yes.
And because it's challenging to go all over, we kind of do it for them. And so we go check out unique spaces and share their stories. And so we do Facebook Live videos and have started documenting some of the new types of spaces that are out there.
Yeah, and is that how you got in touch with Summit? How did you get to know us? Because you're from all the way
from the US. So I actually I met Miriam and Lenica at Coworking Europe in Milan.
Okay.
And I had known of Seats to Meet because Ronald spoke at the Juicy conference in 2014 in Kansas City. And I was always really intrigued by what Ronald's perspective is. And I thought I was a little forward thinking, but holy cow, like how many different things that he saw, right? Yeah. And so I remember watching his presentation in 2014 being like, oh, this guy's like onto something, but I don't know. And then over the last couple years, to see technological advances and just reading the news with more and more automation, right, and just kind of the evolution of what a job is, and so that's how I really got connected at first, and then worked together on a couple opportunities. You all were awesome to invite me last year for the global meetup.
Yeah, it was great to have you.
And I love seeing the evolution of what started at the first location here in Utrecht at the train station, and then how the software developed as a support mechanism to help connecting people.
Yeah.
In-person connection is always, I would say, maybe preferred or the best.
Yeah, of
but when you
course.
have a lot of people, sometimes it's
You
difficult.
need the help, a push.
Yeah, and so to see that software
Yeah.
kind of evolve and to now learn about the new Serendipity Machine app.
The app, yeah.
It's just been really cool because you go into these different spaces, you hear the same challenges or the same kind of stories.
Yeah.
And it's really great that there's companies out there like Seats to Meet that are trying to not only grow their own spaces, but also kind of find the solution that can be, empowering others as well.
Yeah, of course. Cool to hear your vision on that. And also you told about the development of technologies and that you're in a new thing. You talked about PeopleVine. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, yeah. So it's kind of fascinating. There's a lot of phenomenal co-working software platforms out there, right? And unfortunately, because of the nature of independent spaces, they tend to always be very unique.
Yes.
A dear friend of mine, Jessica from Office R&D, she kind of has this phrase where, all you co-working spaces, you're all snowflakes and you're all beautiful, but you're all different.
Yeah,
and
true.
so it is challenging sometimes to build out a software product when every single prospective customer has a
unique
specific
thing.
thing
it has
that
to be tailor-made for every location.
It's difficult. And so when I met PeopleVine this year, also in Chicago, headquartered in 1871, they are a software platform company that was purely designed to solve what they saw were consistent problems.
Which are?
Engaging with customers, whether it be through ticketing for events or billing or messaging, getting feedback through surveys, and how we live in this world of like APIs, right? Where everything is supposed to work. So MailChimp talks to WordPress, talks to SurveyMonkey, talks to, your Stripe billing account. But what was fascinating is that they built something without constraints. They built something that was meant to solve problems rather than being focused on selling to a specific industry or a specific customer.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of ironic that they are kind of what I would imagine is kind of the ultimate solution, because they have all these different features and options.
When it comes for co-working management, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so for billing, room reservation management, emailing, creating the profiles for customers.
Interesting.
There's a lot of software out there that I would have to say tries to solve those, but maybe it's just a little bit broken, or it's kind of, I don't know. It's challenging. Just let's put it out there. Anyone that's in the software business, I don't envy you. It's tough to build that out.
Yeah.
So it was exciting to see something that was outside of our little co-working bubble, and to see how it can be applied to new spaces.
Cool. And we're also talking a little bit about the trends on co-working. And I have this feeling, I also was speaking to Ronald another day, and he was saying that he also have this feeling is that all the spaces, they're kind of blurring. So you also have projects in hotels, so hotels, lobbies that are becoming a co-working place, and it's not only co-working, but it kind of becomes just the thing where the place where you meet. So I would call the church of the village, because back in the days you had the church and everyone would come together to meet there, and it doesn't matter if it's for praying, if it's only for talking, for gossiping, for whatever. So how do you see this trend?
Well, it's kind of funny. So just because of the fact you brought up churches, there's a really cool project in Dallas, Texas called The Mix Coworking, and that's actually in the basement of a Methodist church.
Oh, okay.
And so that space was pretty much only used on the weekends for Sunday school, and during the weekdays it was
totally empty,
vacant, right? And so Darren, who's now at Scatterbrain Coworking in Dallas, she launched this concept, and it really is all about space utilization.
Okay.
So it's a combination of people needing a space to achieve a certain type of task or productivity, right?
Yeah.
And then it's also the landlords or building owners that are trying to figure out how to monetize that space.
Yes.
And so what's really, really fascinating is just seeing how, hotels, people have been working out of hotel lobbies for years.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not a new idea.
No. Yeah.
But you did run into that noisy, not enough outlets, whatever.
Yeah, atmosphere.
Yeah, and so there is a really exciting project going on in Dubai. Wyndham is an international hotel brand. It's the largest brand in the world by number of properties. And they have a new hotel opening up in Dubai called The Trip by Wyndham.
Okay.
And Trip is a younger, mid-level brand that's really targeted to our generation, individuals that are looking for adventure, fun, they value services or certain amenities, but they are not price conscious, but price conscious, I guess, cognizant of it.
Yeah.
And this new property in Dubai, they, from what I believe and the research I've done, will be the first full service co-working space that's part of a hotel property. And so the asset manager who works for the development company saw a need to differentiate the property from other hotels that were opening. And said, okay, we have some of this space that might traditionally go underused or maybe normal meeting space that most people wouldn't rent. So how do we bring in additional people to build a local community that also knows that there's an opportunity to connect with people from around the world? And then those that are traveling that might want faster internet that they can get in their room or might need a couple days of workspace can interact and kind of plug in naturally to a community. And so that's a really innovative project, right?
Concept,
a lot of hotels, Alex Hillman from Indy Hall in Philadelphia has a great phrase. Co-working is as descriptive as restaurants. You've got McDonald's and you've got really nice steak restaurants or steakhouses, and you've got, co-working is not as descriptive anymore. And a lot of people are taking that word and just throwing it on, there's hotels that will say, oh, we have co-working. It's just furniture. Right? So this
it's really well thought.
This is a well thought out space that has a curator, has a community manager, and they are not just the furniture. They are building that local community that can also pair with the guests that are traveling. And it's happening in a lot of different areas too. There's restaurants that are actually changing their business model. They're not selling coffee anymore. They're charging access by the hour. Right? So you come to this cafe and you pay by the minute or by the hour, and then you might have access to drip coffee and a little snack. If you want something more, you can buy it. And it just goes to show that wherever people are, and especially like airports, train stations, just like here at Utrecht, right? I can only imagine you all are a great location for meetings for people that are in other parts of the country. It's easy to get here, they can meet, and then they can leave. Recently, I did a tour in the Baltimore, Washington area at BWI Airport, where we went around to the local Starbucks that were within, a 5-minute drive
from the
airport. And I would say maybe upwards of a third of the people, maybe a little less, had luggage with them. There was one group that actually was having a meeting. They were trying to have a meeting in Starbucks. Right? And
that's interesting as well, because I think that our vision of co-working, I feel that that's the thing with the word co-working. Everyone has their own interpretation of it. And co-working can, of course, be a space, like you're saying, the hotel, that it has all the equipment and all like the community and the fast Wi-Fi and all the power plugs, so everyone can have their notebooks completely charged, and those are all the needs when you're working. But also I see also the word co-working with working together. So other people also would have to be involved. What do you think of it?
Well, I mean, I think that co-working, because everyone's kind of using that term, it is sometimes difficult to differentiate what type of space you're going to encounter. Right? And so I think that's one of the reasons why it's so great to have platforms out there like coworker.com, for example, that it's almost like TripAdvisor for co-working spaces. And so you can learn about, okay, what type of space do they have available? And it helps you make that decision easier and book a space. I was in London last week, and even though I know of all these different spaces, I was in a part of town that I wasn't familiar with, and I went to a space and it didn't really have what I needed for that time. And so I had to run around and find another space in order for a call to happen. And so I think that the more that we can share those different kind of unique elements and amenities, it will help people understand the different types of spaces that are there.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really important. We talked a little bit earlier about selling to your strength. And knowing who your audience is and who you're trying to serve.
Yeah.
And a lot of the work that we've done in just meeting these spaces all over the world is getting them to understand that, like, truly, you as a co-working owner operator, if you have a single location or an independent owner or of a brand, you're way different than the other spaces in the city. Right?
Yeah.
You might be focused on a specific industry. You might be in a specific part of town where there's no other space.
Yeah.
You might have certain amenities, whether it be, there's in Miami, there was a space with recording studio for video editing or sound recording. Then there was a space in Atlanta that had a warehouse for e-commerce and drop shipping, where part of your membership gave you space and then storage and fulfillment services.
Yeah.
And if you're able to really embrace the characteristics and the services that you provide, it's far better to sell towards your strengths than just to undercut each other and say, oh, well, they took 10% off, I'm going to take 15% off.
Yeah.
Because that's really a challenge for the industry.
Yeah.
If everyone's discounting, then everyone is chipping away at the profitability.
Yeah.
And without sounding like profit focused, you can only serve your community if you have a space that's open. If you have a space that's got
just a second.
If you've got a space that's got if it's open and if it's got your power paid and you got your Wi-Fi bills paid, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And I think that also brings something that we're talking also this morning, because also something that is important is to empower each other in the co-working scene. Because I also feel, I like the phrase that you said, that the co-working is a defining word as restaurant, because you have so many different kind of restaurants, and but still, if there's only one restaurant in the world, then probably a lot of people wouldn't know about restaurants.
Yeah.
So then this one restaurant probably wouldn't thrive, because then people would ask themselves, like, why would I go out of my house to eat if I can eat in my house? So if you empower other co-workings, then you empower the whole concept of co-working.
Yeah.
And that makes good for everyone.
Yeah, I think co-working is most definitely an experiential type sell, right?
Yeah.
I think people think, oh, I'm fine working at a co-working or at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Or I'm fine working at home.
Yeah.
But truly, when someone comes into a space and there's that energy, right?
Yeah.
And it's a term that you all have really embraced, accelerated serendipity.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you realize, oh, wow, okay, this is great. And some people can work from home.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those, right? I really thrive off of energy of just other people and having that routine or having that place to go.
I feel that there's a balance as well. I feel that I can work from both, but I cannot work only from home, and I cannot only work from a place filled with people. And I feel that that's most of the case. Of course, there's some people like yourself, you like to always be surrounded by people, but I feel that there's this balance. So, and I think maybe it's maybe co-working should be as restaurants as well. I really like that definition. I'm really kind of tripping in it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to go to the same restaurant every day.
Yep.
So maybe co-working can be like this as well.
Well, yeah, and there's sometimes where if you're running late or you're on the road or if it's late night and you've been out, at the bars, maybe you do want McDonald's. And then there's sometimes where if you got a big business dinner, you can't take your clients there. You got to go to something a little bit fancier, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's what I love about the Seats to Meet location here in Utrecht is that, I can come in, I can grab a seat, but if I need to, and I've got people to meet with, then there's meeting rooms, right? And then you don't have to worry about food or beverages, everything's there.
Yeah.
It was really funny in London last week, we had a little event to try to get different folks from the city to meet up, and someone asked me, where's my favorite place to work? They didn't ask what my favorite co-working space was, and I immediately said an airport lounge. And I love, I spend a lot of time on the road and on planes, and I'll specifically schedule a long layover.
Yeah.
I can save some money on the ticket, But because of the airline, I then get access to a beautiful lounge
Okay.
where I have really fast Wi-Fi. I've got food and beverage. They even have phone booths. They'll have quiet space. They've got a nap pod. They've got a shower room. And so I can really focus for 6-7 hours and just get a ton of work done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's all about that space as a service.
Yeah.
Where when I'm home in Chicago, I'm a member of The Shift, which is a very neighborhood-focused space. No private offices, dedicated desks and flex. About 80 or so seats total, and that's more of the I love having that routine, right, where I get there every day, and it's a little bit more interactive, right, because you see the same people.
It's like an extension of your living room.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of like the different spaces. Yeah. For the different needs that you have.
Yeah. That's I think that's a very interesting point. And one last question also that I really wanted to talk to you is that we were also talking earlier. Just to be clear, we're all the time saying we were talking earlier about
we had lunch.
Yeah, we had a very interesting lunch. And one last subject that I want to revisit of that lunch is the relationship between corporates and co-working.
Yeah.
Because that's I feel that the corporates, they're really seeing what's happening with co-working. They're really taking it seriously now, and they're really saying, okay, how do I fit into this world, and what's the benefit? So, and you had some great examples from New York, and if you care to share them with everyone.
So, I mean, mostly everyone that's watching this is probably very aware of WeWork. You're familiar with the name, and so there's a lot of articles being written about how they are engaging corporates, right? And so in New York, for example, Microsoft secured about 300 memberships for their employees at WeWork. And that's the type of memberships. I'm not quite sure what the details are, but from what I understand, it was more of the flex desk or maybe the lower level membership where they can go to different locations.
Okay.
And that's a great example of a larger corporation saying, okay, we want to empower our employees with the ability to work where they need to work for that day, right? Yeah. Maybe they've got a doctor's appointment that's up on the Upper West Side, right? And so maybe they'll work from a space that's closer there, right? Yeah. Or maybe they want to be closer to their home, depending on the day. Yeah. On the flip side, you've also got an article that was written about IBM securing WeWork to manage an entire building for them. Yeah. And that's more of a corporation saying, okay, we need this much space, and we're going to put all of our employees or, a certain amount of employees in this space, but we don't want to have to deal with signing longer leases. We don't want to have to deal with finding the maintenance company, negotiating the internet packages, stocking, all that type of stuff. And so they're actually like outsourcing it to WeWork. And WeWork is kind of acting as almost like kind of like a concierge management for that space. Yeah. It's very interesting because for that IBM property, they are, and this is just me from an outsider's perspective, it appears as if they're embracing the collaboration internally for employees that might need to run into each other, might collaborate on different projects. Where then you've got a company like Microsoft that's wanting to put their employees out in the wild to meet others. Yeah,
that's exactly the point I wanted to get. But continue.
No. And so it's a matter of what is that employee's goal, right? If you're developing super secret code and you need to be in a secure building, co-working it's not the best. Yeah. But if you're in business development or you're doing mergers and acquisitions or in sales, it makes total sense to be in a space where there's new people you can connect.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also, there's a link between what you said between the hotels and their lobbies and what they're doing with co-working and those corporates. Because here in the Netherlands, probably you heard already, that there's this insurance company. They're more than 100 years old, very, very old, traditional. But they have a very big lobby and they put a Sitsumi location there. So they really put like the furniture that they had, like the abundance, and they shared the freelancers in their local area. And from that, they host monthly events where they do like pitching events for those entrepreneurs and those freelancers to start collaborations. And from that, they already launched like more than 10 collaborations together with the entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So it's not only acquiring, but it's also empowering the entrepreneur to innovate themselves. So they're both empowering each other. Do you feel there's potential for corporates? Because like New York, for instance, they have tons of offices, like tons of the buildings. They're totally from one company that has beautiful lobbies that could be used by entrepreneurs and freelancers. Do you think there's potential for that?
Oh yeah, and it's already happening. So there are stories and examples. Can't use a bunch of names, but there's a company in Singapore that is open source, and so they had extra space that was unused, and so they actually opened that up as flexible workspace for some of their most active community contributors. And the goal was for those that are already contributing to an open source software to naturally interact with employees of that company. And then you've got another example of the LinkedIn headquarters building in San Francisco, where this kind of shows where the innovation's coming from the government side. To approve the building, the lobby had to be public space. And so the goal was to open up the lobby and have these big tables with a cafe where it really truly is free public co-working. It's not an initiative specifically of LinkedIn, but it's just part of that development deal. Where for the building to be built.
And that initiative comes from the municipality then?
Correct, yeah.
So the municipalities, they're also encouraging co-working and this kind of connections between corporates and freelancers and entrepreneurs.
Well, yeah.
Was that the idea?
It is. Well, in the municipalities, San Francisco has, for as many wonderful things that are going on in the city, there are some challenges, right? The real estate costs are through the roof, accessibility to not only housing, but affordable workspace. And so I believe the city really wanted to take advantage of a big name and a big building to figure out how to benefit the community. There are other governments that are starting to embrace this. San Marcos, Texas is this little city right between Austin and San Antonio. And just this week, they've released an RFP, the request for proposal, to find a co-working operator to work with them to launch co-working in small towns.
So in the whole city.
San Marcos.
That's amazing.
They'll be allocating government funds to support that, right? And because the challenge is that in traditional municipality or economic development standards, it was always kind of like, what does success look like? Success looks like, oh, we secured 500 jobs for this type of company. That's not happening as much anymore. And so how do you define success? Because these co-working spaces are very much taking the place of traditional chambers of commerce or the economic development agencies, because small businesses are doing work together. DESMAC does the Global Co-working Survey every year, and this past year reported that over a third of co-working members who responded said that they did work with other members, right? Sorry, no, it was over 2/3 said they did work. And a quarter of them actually contracted. This isn't just like, oh, can you help me with my MailChimp? This was, I have this opportunity, would you like work together? And so I think the governments are starting to realize, oh, wow, we have to support the spaces because they're doing it themselves. And there's maybe more local impact in having the small businesses work together.
Exactly, because there's a whole new way of creating work for people, because it's not like corporates, they're not as big as they were back in the days, and freelancing, it's a big option right now, because or not only freelancing but also those exactly what you're saying, small companies. So I do love those concepts, and I love that you have so many examples to give us, but I think that we're already in a long time now. Maybe I cannot find it here. Here, 33 minutes. So it's,
I feel bad. Did we have to talk about anything about digital nomads?
What? Yeah, no, but I feel that there are a lot of those stuff they are related to being a digital nomad because it's the whole trend of it, and we're just talking. Me and Lenny is right there about what's the next wave, because we feel that the digital nomads, the hype, it's already gone and now it's stabilizing, but then what's the next thing? And we really believe that is this transition of people from 9 to 5 jobs to this more flexible jobs. So I feel that it really relates to this next wave of. I don't think that they will be called digital nomads anymore. Digital nomads, they're part of this group.
Exactly. It'll just be the way that people work, or just a lifestyle choice more so. But I have to say, and this is not just a shameless plug, that when you are a digital nomad, the reason why so many do tend to go to a co-working space is because it is lonely at times, right? When you're traveling, you're in new cities. When you find a co-working space, it's an immediate connection and you feel like you've got this network. But sometimes there can be a challenge of meeting, right? And so that's why I love the idea of that technological assist, right? Of having an app like the Serendipity Machine, where I know that it's a guaranteed way where at least I can see what people are up to, or if there's someone that I might have something in common with.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect icebreaker.
It really is. Yeah. And it's great to know. It's one thing to go into a space and get comfy and run into someone maybe at the coffee machine or have that conversation start, but it's another thing to really kind of have that added element of, oh wow, like I'm actively looking for help on this. Yeah. Is there anyone in that space? Yeah. And then to find that. So I think it's making apps and programs like Serendipity Machine, it's helping being a digital nomad be less intimidating. Yeah. You know? Yeah, definitely. Cool that you say that. We're going to quote that in our website as well. Yeah, cool. So also just let everyone know, the Serendipity Machine app is already available. Yep. So just the publicity part. You can already download it. You can go to our website, serendipitymachine.com, and it's already available for iOS and Android. Is there anything that you want to add? No, I think that's... publicist thing? No, I mean, I think that's it. I mean, like I said, it's a little embarrassing. The Coworkaholic site should be up in the next day or two. But yeah, I mean, I think that if you are out there and you are looking to open up a co-working space, there might be challenges out there. Embrace those challenges. Learn about commercial real estate. For anyone there's a great movie that's out called The Founder. And it's a biography on Ray Kroc, who's the guy that really made McDonald's what it is. And there's a scene where there's a colleague that says, you're not in the restaurant business, you're in the real estate business. And I really think that you need to realize that you are a community builder, you are in the hospitality business, but actually you are in the real estate business. And so do yourself a favor and start using those real estate terms, because a lot of owners out there, or people that have big buildings, they're becoming more and more open-minded to forming partnerships. You don't always have to sign a lease. Yeah. But just know that there's ways where that you can get creative to find, how to bring. It's not always the obvious way. It's not always the obvious way. Yeah. So I would say most definitely that's just a parting note. Like, it's not easy sometimes to open up a space, but keep on working through it and build that community first. Yeah. Yeah. And then the space will follow. Yeah. Couldn't agree more with that statement. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much, Mike. No problem. This is awesome. I really loved your conversation, and we'll definitely love to have you back. Yeah, anytime I can come to the Netherlands. It's always wonderful to visit. Yeah, so bye, everyone. Ciao.